everybody. I'm your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my show, The Jollof Show. Today I've got a very important guest in the studio here with me, Mr. Adam Njai, the Director of Marketing of GT Board all the way from the Gambia. I've got Mr. James Baum here as well with me today. This show tonight is going to be very, very interesting to all our viewers of InterFae Gambia. A couple of weeks ago, you've seen me had an interview with Mr. Adam Njai, the Director of Marketing of GT Board. Mr. Njai is here in the UK to attend the WTM, World Travel Market. And of course, Mr. James Baum, no one will present Mr. James Baum to the Gambians living in the diaspora, and of course, most Gambians living back home. Mr. Njai, welcome to InterFae Gambia and of course, The Jollof Show. How are you today?
Well, thanks for having me. A bit tired, but yeah, it's good to be here. Thank
you very much, Mr. Njai. Mr. Baum. Mr. Baum, welcome to The Jollof Show.
Thank you very much, Lamin. It's a pleasure to come to the show.
I would just like to start the interview with Mr. Njai. Mr. Njai, since we had that interview the last time about the tourist department in the Gambia, we've seen lots of tourists coming, that most people were worried about the Russian tourists. And we clearly mentioned that, and the market was not only purely based on the Russian market, but then we wanted to know how the Gambia went to Russia to promote tourism there and to have all those tourists coming into the Gambia to enjoy the tourist season. Picking up from where we stopped the last time, so far how many flights have you got coming from Russia? We start with again. How many flights have you received from Russia?
Well, I think, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that the first Russian flight started in October 1st.
That's
and
right.
It was very clear from that moment that we'll be having 3 flights in a month with the Boeing 767, and I think the capacity is about 350 per week. So so far we have, from September to today, I think it's about 1 month now, right? So we have about 4 flights now. So 350 by 4 is about 1,000 plus. So it's weekend, every 10 days we have 1 flight direct from Russia to Banjul.
So you're having 1,000 flights coming from every week from other destinations or from Russia?
You mean 1,000 passengers?
1,000 passengers?
No, I'm saying every 10 days we have 350 passengers. So every month,
okay, 350 passengers.
So every month is about 1,000. But that's only the Russian market, and I think we have also some other flights from other source markets.
Other source markets like
like Scandinavia. If I should actually give you a summary, I think before I came yesterday, we have actually had about 6 or 7 million flights. And the first one that we had after the Russian flight was, we also have Gambia experience. They have already confirmed their winter season. We have also just confirmed that Thomas Cook UK started yesterday before I left. They'll be flying 9 times from the UK, not only in Gatwick, but even in other airports like Manchester, I think Birmingham and Bristol, if my memory serves me right. And if you look at also Holland, and I think it's very clear to inform our viewers that yes, UK has been traditionally been the highest source market for destination Gambia. But I mean, now we have seen that the Dutch market is actually picking up. For the past 2-3 years, the Dutch market has been second. And the reason being that there's a lot of awareness been raised within the Dutch market. An example is TUI is actually flying for the season 5 times a week. And if you add it with Corendon flying 4 times, so there's already 9. But the interesting part of it now is for the first time Thomas Cook also is flying from Holland twice. So, so you have 5, 4 and 2. So that's already 11 flights. Also. So if you actually compare the frequency with the UK, it's pretty much at par. I think where the difference would be is the aircraft capacity. And of course, it's also very clear that, the Gambia experience, despite the fact they are flying with Titan, around December they'll be bringing 767. So the projection that we have for 2019 is 2018-19 is really looking good. Yeah. And our projection for 2018 was about 200,000, but as we speak now, I'm very convinced that we will hit the 200,000. And by the time we come back to 2019, January to December, we might have about maybe 30 or 25% more than what we have for 2018. And if you look at the flight frequencies compared to last year and this year, you're talking about 57 flights per week. Of course, this actually includes flying every day by Brussels Airlines. It's actually confirmed that they'll be flying 7 times from January to March.
That's Brussels Airlines.
Brussels Airlines.
They'll be flying 7 times.
7 times to Banjul. And of course, out of those 7, 3 of those flights will be directed to Gambia, so they will not be flying via Dakar. So you know what that tells you also, and even within Brussels, you know, we are also now having a charter flight from TUI twice a week. So if you add the 7 flights of Brussels Airlines plus the 2 from TUI, you already have 9. So if you talk about the sub-regional market, we talk about ARPs is flying 4 times a week, and A-Sky is flying every day.
So it looks like someone will say that the market is quite busy at the moment in the Gambia when it comes to tourism. You guys are quite busy now.
Extremely busy.
Good.
Very flexible.
It's all about Destination Gambia. We're coming back to you here, but I'll just get Mr. James to come on to the board. Mr. James Bahom. James Bahom is a legal officer, a human rights activist from 1994. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. James.
You were spot on.
Most Gambians know Mr. James Bahom since the time of Yahya Jammeh in 1994, one of the first Gambians to demonstrate against military rule in West Africa. The reason being, Mr. James Bahom and his colleagues, they know a lot about military government, or because it was just that it wasn't right for the Gambian people. What was the reason why you all started protesting against the Jammeh government since 1994?
Well, thank you very much, Lamin. That's an important question that takes me back 22 years. The motivation for our activism started back in '94 for the simple reason some of us are students of history, and of course we have experiences of what happened in other sub-regional countries like Ghana, like Nigeria, in terms of military takeovers. You know, it is clear from those examples that wherever we had military governments, for instance, post-independence, it has led to chaos and confusion, but also of deaths and violation of fundamental rights. We knew Gambia was not going to be an exception. It's as simple as that. And for that reason, we started to agitate against the government, and even during the transitional period, '94 to '96, we thought that could have been done very quickly, and you know, the army officials headed by Jammeh at the time would have gone back to barracks and allowed the political dispensation, you know, to find its true course in the process of the democratic change. So that was really the first reason why we thought, you know, that we should speak out against what was clearly a violation of, you know, our fundamental constitutional model, but also that it portends for us as a country the possibility for major human rights violation, lack of compliance with rule of law, and the destruction of our democratic values. So we thought we needed to restore that.
Exactly. At that point in time, what exactly were you saying in the military government that most Gambians were not saying? And how comes you have survived this long, vigorous journey against the undemocratic government that was in the Gambia for the past 22 years?
Well, for start, if I were in Gambia, I perhaps would not have survived this long. I know people who were there doing similar things to what I was doing here, and we know how their fate was sealed by the dictatorship. You know, I had the belief of my conviction, if you like. And I knew that from what we've learned from other countries in the sub-region, a military government was going to be perhaps even worse in Gambia than it played out in places like Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and all these places. You know, even in Francophone West Africa, in the countries that coup d'etats took place, history has taught us that it ended in a very bad way. For the people, especially, because military governments come and go. Whilst they are in office, they do what they can in terms of destroying our fundamental beliefs and values, but also that the humanitarian catastrophe that they leave in their wake was something that really we knew would happen in Gambia. At some point, of course, you will sit back and wonder whether, you know, if it comes to a head and that the government had become so unpopular like it did towards the end of 2016, whether it wouldn't be prudent on the part of Senegal in terms of securing their own sovereignty, but also the integrity of their territory, that they wouldn't have found it necessary to intervene and invade in Gambia. Of course, we knew that finally the ECOWAS forces came, but it would have been in the case of Senegal.
Senegal has played a very important role in helping the Gambia to restore democracy.
Of course, and that is clear. It was Macky Sall who took the first step in going back to the United Nations Security Council to seek their permission for a military intervention if Jammeh became recalcitrant, and that is what he did. What we said was that I feared perhaps that was not shared by many, but I feared that Senegal on its own accord could have found justification in terms of its security and its territorial integrity to now think it necessary where the country Gambia becomes untenable and becomes chaotic and perhaps even conflicted, that the Senegalese wouldn't have found it necessary in their own case to come into Gambia to protect their own democracy and their own territorial sovereignty. These were issues that came to a head wherever Gambians met at the time. In the UK, the difficulty we had was how do we actually sensitize? There was a level of ambivalence within the Gambian community in the UK at the onset of the change, which left many people really nonchalant about, whether or not it was important. Most people actually said, we don't do politics, therefore this is nothing to do with us. Others were pleased because, of course, the Jawara government, which perhaps they hated so much, had gone. And so there were not really good reasons for many people to really see what can happen potentially adversely to the Gambia if the military government was allowed to continue. So we started agitating from day one because we didn't want them to go beyond the transitional period. That had happened in other countries. And we have seen where military officers come in, take over the country, take over power, and then change into civilians, metamorphose into civilians, and become civilian presidents, but still retain that militaristic tendency that actually brought them into power.
That's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and that's what we saw in Gambia. So these were, the warning signs were there. The writing was on the wall, so to speak. And we thought it was important, even then, as early then as it was, to sensitize the Gambian people about the dangers that, potentially could happen to Gambia as a result of this very drastic, but also, violent change of government, as it were.
Thank you very much. I would still ask you another question, Mr. Baum. And in one point in life that when people are joining struggles, it will one way or the other pay for the ultimate price. In any way that this has affected your personal or professional life while joining the struggle against Jammeh?
Of course. You don't get into these kinds of things lightheartedly. Of course, my family, for one, didn't like the idea of me being, hearing me over the BBC all the time and Sky News. And I remember any time my mom, she doesn't listen to the BBC, but apparently she knows any time I go on TV or on radio to talk about Gambia, and that really bothered her so much. She would call me and cry, actually. But I believe what I was doing was right, and under normal circumstances, she would have actually encouraged me to do so, because that was what was right. But because the situation back home in Gambia had become so toxic to people who behaved the way I did over the 22 years, those who were on the ground in Gambia at the time had paid with their lives, some of them, including very good friends of mine, Koro Sise, for instance, Jibril Sey. I went to school with Jibril Sey. We sat on the same desk at St. Peter's from Form 1 all the way. Koro Sise was my close friend, and he was the last person I visited in '94 on my last trip to Gambia as a free man.
Koro Sise was
the finance minister, indeed.
In the Jammeh government.
Absolutely, and his gruesome murder, really was a catalyst for so many other people actually to join the struggle, because he was such a brilliant Gambian, and with great potential, and his life cut short so easily and so early.
A date for your diary, Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition of top class only. This event is sponsored by Gam Designers UK.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate, the more we come
vivez en Europe et désirez envoyer de l'argent à vos proches en Afrique, alors pensez à Cash Minute.
Mind the Gap. The face of Gambia worldwide is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFace Gambia TV 2018 Gambia Tour from November 30th to 9th December with your presenter, Mr. Lamin Jammeh, the Jollof Show.
Hello, welcome to InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter, Lamin Jammeh, with my brand new show called The Jollof Show.
The Gambia Shako Shakanamrek. This tour is sponsored by Gambia Chamber of Commerce Industry, Gambia Tourism Board, Senegambia Beach Hotel, Gambia Hotel Association, Mr. Young's Dabor, Mr. Jamil Tarawale, LLB, Honorable Solicitor, Northern Garden Security Limited, and Yaye Instant Service.
Go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Short so easily and so early, and it forced a lot of people into the struggle somehow. We were already there, we were agitating, we were writing, you know, the Gambia L, the Gambia Post. At the time, social media was not what it is today. But then we had to find a way, really, to raise awareness about the dangers that, you know, Gambia was facing with the dictatorship and Jammeh.
Thank you very much. Coming back to you, Mr. Njai. Like I say, the whole program is pretty much more about how to promote tourism in the Gambia, Destination Gambia, and of course to have Mr. Bao here, which is a prominent Gambian. Everyone pretty much in the UK knows Mr. Bao, almost half his name. I have worked with him myself in the past. I've met him on so many occasions. Coming back to you, Mr. Njai, I understand that you're here in the UK with the for the WTM, which is the World Travel Market. I'm very pleased to have you on my show today because I know you just arrived this morning. And what are we expecting from this trip? What are you expecting from this trip?
Thank you. I think the purpose of coming to the World Travel Market, if you look at the trade fairs that is organized worldwide, I think the World Travel Market stands out the second after the ITB, because the ITB in Berlin is the biggest. And one of the reasons why we attend the World Travel Market is on many folds. And I think the first one is when you attend trade fairs, you actually meet the decision makers in that country and beyond. Because what we do is, you know, we have a B2B meetings with decision makers in the countries that we are interested in. Let me give you an example. This double term, we'll be meeting the likes of Thomas Cook, the decision makers of Gambia Experience, the likes of Rainbow Tours, the likes of Olympic Travels. Of course, we will also have some bloggers, some media personnel coming to meet us. So we actually have a lot of meetings on B2B to actually see what we can do to continue the strength that we have actually developed within the UK market and beyond. Because that is the only way we can show the British people or the British travelers that the Gambia is really interested in this market. And despite the fact Gambia Experience and Thomas Cook are flying to the Gambia, we have always said we want them to fly all year round. Yeah, of course Gambia Experience is flying all year round, but we want Thomas Cook to actually join that. Okay. And because we don't believe in the issue of having seasonality in this country. We have seen over the years where you have tourism operation for 6 months, and over 6 months many Gambians are laid off. And that's not what we want. I think we need to start working on, first of all, the strategy is to expand or extend the season from 6 to 8. But right now, if all things been equal, I'm afraid you might be having so many charter flights coming not only from the UK but even from other source markets like Germany to be flying all year round. Because that's the only way we could maintain employment in this country, and that's the main reason why we're here. Well, we'll have a lot of interviews from the media, and we'll have lots of line-up meetings. And I think if my memory serves me right, we have almost so far about 25 to 30 meetings lined up. For B2B with the travel trade, in the UK and beyond.
Right. Another question I want to ask you is do you promote tourism in any other destination apart from Europe alone? Do you go to other African countries to promote Gambian tourism in there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we always say that the sub-regional market is key to our success. And I think that is why we really do a lot of promotion within the sub-region, particularly in Nigeria, for instance. And of course, we have seen that the Senegalese have also started coming to the Gambia a lot, particularly with the Colonie de Vacances.
Colonie de Vacances.
Yeah, Colonie de Vacances.
Colonie de Vacances.
We actually had a meeting with them a couple of months back. You know, we met their technical people, and they actually expressed their interest in terms of the Gambia. And of course, it is also being reciprocated also that the same way the Senegalese are coming to the Gambia, the same way we want also the Gambians to visit Senegal. Because for me, personally, I always said African integration is very important for African success.
It is.
And we even encourage even to operators, they can even have a twin destination package where you'll have Gambia, Senegal, or Senegal, Gambia, and back to their destination. So Nigeria is actually key, and I'm sure you're aware that they are big spenders.
They are.
We also tap in a lot from the Ghanaian market. Of course, also Freetown and also Liberia, because there are so many expats, around that area. That's why, we actually went to Nigeria to attend the Aquaba Trade Fair just about less than 2 months ago. And there were some remarkable achievements, from the Gambian side.
Now, talking about that Aquaba Trade Fair, I know it happens sometime early this September, which was the 9th of September till the 14th, if I'm right.
Right.
And then there was 5 directors from all over African were selected. And you happen to be the one that was chosen from the Gambia. Yeah. And I'm pleased to say to the audience of InterFae Gambia that you did very well there. How did that whole happen?
Well, for me, it was very touching because, Africa is a big continent. And if you are selected as among the destination managers from different countries in Africa to be in an African forum, to talk about, because the topic was about the roles of the DMCs and the DMOs in sustainable marketing for Africa. And I was actually the part of those selected.
Okay.
And when I went, of course, I represented my country. And at least, the whole African continent knew that Gambia, yes, we can be small, but trust me, we are very respected in terms of tourism. And that is why so many countries like Nigeria, even Senegal, and I can tell even Sierra Leone, they are looking into having MOUs. As we speak now, I think Ghanaian Tourism Authority or the Ghana Ministry of Tourism and Culture and the Gambia have actually signed an MOU. So many countries want to have an MOU with us. The reason being, we have been in the industry for quite some time, and it's very touching when you go to this forum and you become a Gambian and you talk about your country. I think I think this is the biggest achievement for me personally, and of course I'm sure for the Gambia to actually represent my country in that forum. And even in that trade fair we actually won, well, six awards, I can say, because that was a competition that we did in terms of the jollof rice competition between Gambia.
So you won?
Yes.
You won an award for jollof rice?
Well, yeah, because, we have to bear in mind that Gambia was absent for the Aquaba trade.
But please tell me you're not the person that cooked the jollof rice.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
That's fine.
It was done by a lady called Ida Cham.
Ida Cham, okay.
She does a lot of good things for the Gambia. And when we competed, it was Gambia, Ghana, and Nigeria. So last year it was won by Ghana. So we came and said, the jollof rice is us. And we won. And of course, 5 ground tour operators also were among the 100 best tour operators in Africa.
Wow.
And the 5 came from the Gambia. So
5 came from the Gambia?
Yeah. 5 awards as among the top 100 tour operators doing well in Africa. You have the Gambia Tours, West African Tours, Africa Adventure Tours, Alcama Tours, and West African Tours. So there were 5, including the Jollof rice, and of course the forum that I attended in terms of the DMCs and the DMOs. So pretty much everything was for the country, and we were showcased everywhere. And I can tell you, as we speak now, we're having so many inquiries from the tour operators in Nigeria wanting to sell destination Gambia. But you have to also bear in mind that so many Nigerians are coming to the Gambia now in terms of wedding, in terms of shopping, in terms of even the mice market. So And it's actually complemented by the number of flights we have now. If you have AirPeace flying 4 times from Banjul to Nigeria and A-Sky flying every day, it tells a lot. And I think the more African visitors we have to this country, the better, because it is very clear that most of the European tour operators operate during the winter season.
During the winter season.
The moment, you know, after 6 months, they start wrapping up. So what we want is, we also want Africans to be coming to our country. And when that happens, then we will not close the season. And it is very also clear for us to note that Nigerians, they spend a lot of money.
That's true.
Yeah, they got the money.
That's true. Coming back to you, Mr. Baham.
Yes.
Now that democracy has been restored in the Gambia, Barrow and the coalition government seem to be very, very impressed about the way things are going. Are you impressed with the way the process is going, especially the integration of the TRRC for the victims?
I'll start my answer by saying that change by itself is always a difficult process. For 22 years, we in the diaspora and those on the ground in Gambia have been agitating for this change, and it has happened. I am impressed, of course, by the way that the Gambian people responded to the call of duty in going out there to vote against the dictatorship and remove Jammeh. I am impressed, of course, by the political parties coming together, because we had called for that since 2001, and it finally happened in 2016. So I am impressed by that. There are shortcomings, of course, and there are still serious deficits that have to be addressed by the current government. I, for one, believe that it was a 3-year arrangement that was reached at the coalition convention, and that the president was also taken around the country, you know, on the manifesto. Fundamental part of that manifesto was the 3-year mandate. Of course, we now know that that has been jettisoned.
No, but Mr. Bao, I'll just have to say, if it says 3 years, but the constitution of the Gambia says 5 years, so do you think that they should go against the constitution of the Gambia, or they should go against their own words, what they have agreed?
Well, you know, I have had that argument several times, that it is, it's not a binary, you don't necessarily, it's not a situation where you have a binary, you know, answer to that. It cannot be either with the constitution or against the constitution. Now, Gambians are very clever people. We are very innovative as well. But this is not even new. In a transitional period, if you wanted to hit the transitional deadline, you should have, one, started the process a lot earlier than it is. I am happy about the TRRC and the CRC and the other commissions that have been set up. But I am saying that job should have been done at the very onset of the transition, once Barrow came back from Dakar and assumed full executive authority. That process should have started then. But of course, you and I both know that it was dragged for a while, for over a year, before any kind of initiative was commenced in terms of setting up of the TRRC or the CRC. And that, for me, is why this transitional period now seems untenable. But what I am saying is that we could have commenced the constitutional rebuilding from, say, 5 months, 3 months, 4 months, because we needed the personnel. We have the personnel. Now we know that because the commission has been set. I am saying, if the process had been commenced earlier, the technicality of whether or not we comply with the constitutional provision that states 5 years fixed term presidency could have been easily solved. You may ask me how. It's simple. You input a sunset clause within the draft constitution as a transitional mechanism and put it back to the people, which we will ultimately have to do even with this current situation. You have to put it back on in a referendum to the people. Now, if you implant a sunset clause within that constitution, you're also asking the people to give you the authority to terminate the existing constitution. And that simply is to override the 5-year, what is a lacuna for most people. And then, you know, we have a new dispensation that has been authorized by the people who are the actual lawmakers of the country in a referendum. So it's not a technical issue that was not in some.
A Date for your diary. Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition of top class only. This event is sponsored by Gam Designers UK.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Vous vivez en Europe et désirez envoyer de l'argent à vos proches en Afrique. Alors pensez à Cash Minute.
Mind the Gap. The face of Gambia worldwide is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFae Gambia TV 2018 Gambia Tour from November 30th to 9th December with your presenter, Mr. Lamin Jammeh, The Jollof Show.
Hello, welcome to InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my brand new show called The Jollof Show.
The Gambia Shako Shakanamrek. This tour is sponsored by Gambia Chamber of Commerce Industry, Gambia Tourism Board, Senegambia Beach Hotel, Gambia Hotel Association, Mr. Yangs Dabor, Mr. Jamil Tarawale, LLB, Honorable Solicitor, Northern Garden Security Limited, and Yaye Instant Service.
Surmountable. It is something that we could have done. Transitional periods or transitional processes had lasted a shorter period than 3 years. And I believe, given the size of the country, given the institutions that we had to rectify and reform, and the fact that people were on a political favor,
Mr. Brown,
that would have
remember this is 22 years of mismanagement.
Of course.
Disappearance of innocent people, mismanagement of public funds. So in 3 years, can you think that this can work?
But that was not the mandate of the coalition government.
Jammeh the Gambians at that point in time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the mandate of the coalition government was to create a transitional mechanism and lay the foundation.
They even know that within 3 years they couldn't solve that problem.
But
this is fact. They know that.
We haven't tried it.
They can't even try it because within 22 years of mismanagement, disappearing of innocent people, and etc. In 3 years, no government. Do you agree that they could have solved that problem?
But Lamin, the point was not, we didn't ask the coalition government to come in and be a permanent government.
Absolutely.
Like, we are saying to you, you are being given a mandate to go and lay the foundation. Any other government that comes after that would have continued any initiative that this coalition government started off. The TRRC could have continued because it was going to be more than 2.5 years, perhaps. We now know that the Jammeh Commission, they're looking into the finances of the ex-president. The Jammeh Commission still continues and could have continued. The constitutional review, which would have launched the new dispensation, was one thing that could have started. They could have started from the initial stage, and by now perhaps we would have transitioned. Now the point is this: I have seen other countries in the sub-region, Guinea-Bissau, like for instance, they transition in a shorter period, than the Gambia is now. We also know that in spite of the fact that in a country like Ivory Coast, with what transpired after the last election with Gbagbo and Ouattara, that they were still able to transition on a shorter...
With the help of the French.
Of course. But we have the French, we have international goodwill like no other country has had in recent times, considering what we managed to achieve by removing a dictator without a single bullet being fired. That impressed the world so much, they came in their droves to support the process of change that the Gambians had commenced. So I am saying, I am impressed with some of the things that have been done. By this government, of course. Okay. Everything cannot be simple, bad. But I'm saying, we could have hastened this whole process a little more so that by this time we would have been looking to abide by the strict agreement that was reached between the parties and that came together to form the coalition. And I believe that it would be, quite frankly, in my view, it would be a lost opportunity if we allow, because me and you are following the Gambian situation clearly every day, and we are seeing the machinations of politicians and political parties looking to gain advantage through this process in order to enhance their electoral fortunes in the next coming elections. So that by itself is a distraction from the process of laying down a strong foundation for a new dispensation. And I think in spite of Barrow, in spite of the political parties, the Gambian people had called for this change, and they had supported the coalition, but also the manifesto that the coalition put to them. It is only recently that the president, when you ask him about the term limit, about his, the 3-year mandate, becomes a little ambiguous about it. But we are clear that at several stages through the process, at the formation stage of the coalition, right through to when he assumed office, it was repeatedly stated the fact that he would only last for 3 years. Now,
at that point in time, Mr. Bahom, changes were needed.
Of course,
and we needed it at the quickest we could have get it as Gambians. So I think, but going forward, a lot has been said about this government.
Yes.
Do you now agree with the current reform in the judicial system and the constitution, media security and certain institutions? Is this the way forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, some of the reasons why some of us were agitating for all this time is because we knew that there was serious democratic deficit in Gambia, even under Jammeh, not only under Jammeh, but prior to Jammeh in the Jawara government. We were a struggling democracy, looking to find our place within the Committee of Nations, of Democratic Nations.
When you say struggling democracy, what do you actually mean?
What I mean is that we had the green shoots of democracy, in the sense that we have the institutions of democracy in the state, but the practice of democracy under Jawara and under Jammeh were abysmal. And that is why we find ourselves in these kinds of troubles. Now, democracy is an aspiration, but it's technical in terms of its delivery. You must have the right institutions. Governance by itself talks about institutions. And therefore, we needed as soon as possible to put right the institutions of state and society in Gambia after this change, because it's not only institutional change, it's also social change. So the mindset has to be right, but also Gambia does not need any experts coming from anywhere else in the world. We have enough experts in Gambia around the world to come and fix this problem. Some of us who continue to agitate on this front know that, because we know what we wanted when we went to the polling booth to get rid of Jammeh. We needed a democracy that would protect our rights, but also look to provide our aspirations as individuals, but also as collectives. So what we are witnessing right now is the slow pace of democratization. I believe that in the beginning, I was having this conversation with a friend on my first visit after the change in February of 2017. And I was lamenting the fact that I arrived in Banjul on the 10th of February of 2017, and things were as normal as I left them in '94 when I last visited. Why? Because I was expecting that this is the start of a transitional process, and that the civil service and all the other institutions of state would be working overtime. You go to the offices at 9, you're most likely to find people there trying to get the answers to the questions and the challenges that we face as a changing country. But that was not the case. People would go to work at the same time, finish work at the same time, go and do their leisure business at the same time. So I was looking at the process in the United States, for instance, in a democratic transition.
Yeah, but you can't compare the United States and African
Of course not.
Of
course not. I'm saying this.
That's a culture.
I'm saying this not as a result of comparison.
Right, okay.
But as the way that people are busy, you know, in completing a transitional process, that they are all, you know, sleeves rolled, ready to work late hours, sandwiches behind the desk, and stuff like that. I expected that to happen, but it didn't. And for me, from that point onwards, I knew this transition was going to delay. It was going to be late, and that we might as well we were in a situation where it had to go the full hog, 5 years. But notwithstanding, I think there is a consensus now around the fact that this government is going to last for 5 years. There may be certain meetings here and there trying to fine-tune whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a 5-year fixed-term presidency. If it does happen, then so be it. But what I am saying now, I think this whole process could have been accomplished a long time, maybe started earlier, and by this time we would have been a little bit clearer as to where we are going to launch this new dispensation, how, and a date, and all that. All that being well, you know, not happened that way. That perhaps was my own personal ambition. Others had different ambitions and different, you know, viewpoints. But the fact remains that Gambia has to now transition into a democracy that would facilitate for the ordinary Gambians the opportunity to make a living that would keep them as dignified individuals with a stake in the nation, so to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baham. We'll come back to you very soon. This conversation is taking the next step now here. All the viewers of InterFae Gambia, I'm your presenter, Lamin, Jammeh. On my show, The Jollof Show, I've got the Director of Marketing of the Gambia Tourist Board, Mr. Adam Njai, and of course I've got Mr. James Baham with me, who is a legal advisor and a human rights activist. Mr. Njai, if I might just come back to you again, how are the hotels coping with this flux of tourists coming into the Gambia recently?
Well, yeah, they're coping. I think it's also very clear that with the number of tourists coming in, we will soon be experiencing some stop sales in the hotels. What that means is, you know, they'll be full at their capacities. But also you have to be in mind that as we speak now, so we have seen so many 4- or 5-star hotels that have been built. The reason why we're doing that now, we are also contemplating of a lot of tourists coming in. And with this structure we have now, we will not be able to cope in the next 1 year or two. So some hotels, some even Gambians, have been 4- or 5-star hotels. I think the likes of Princess Beach Hotel has been built. It's going to open next month. It's a 4-star hotel. And the likes of Tama, which is on the Mali Sala. And some other ones like the Metsi Residence, which is a 4-star, you know, owned by also Gambia, you know, Musa Seka, you know, among others. The reason why we're doing that, and also FTI is also trying to build 2 5-star hotels. So if those ones are established, they will actually cater for the number of tourists that are actually coming to the destination. So for now, we don't have that kind of emergency where we will press the alarm button for now. But that is why now we're also accelerating for you know, people to start constructing. I'm sure within the next 12 months, you will see some 4- or 5-star hotels coming up. And that will actually, you know, complement the efforts we're doing to increase the numbers for Destination Gambia.
Is the rural areas, are they benefiting from the tourist sector?
Absolutely. I think right now we are actually challenged by good products of country. And I think that is the cry that we have been hearing from the tour operators and even the ground tour operators. We believe that the tourism has to trickle down to the hinterland if you want to avoid the issue of migration. And we can only mitigate that by having some establishment of country. But now the government, and of course the Ministry of Tourism and the GT will have been very clear that we are no more going to allow any 3-star, 2-star hotel built within the coast. It has to be 4- and 5-star. Everything now, if any establishment is to build 3-star, 2-star, you go to the hinterland. Because we have noticed that there's so many bad products up country, and it's not good for the country. And now we have taken it upon ourselves that any product that we have visit, we're actually planning to do some visits, I think, next week. We actually went there last month. Any establishment we found not fitting for purpose, we will have a meeting with you, give you a deadline. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, we're going to shut it down. Because that's the only way we can solve the problem. Because I think the Gambia can only move if we are honest to each other. The country can only move if we actually have one direction. And the direction is for the benefit of all Gambians. And that can only be done if you're sincere to each other. And sincerity is the way forward for us. I'm glad that my honorable brother here is talking about it. You see, whether it's tourism or whether it's agriculture, we have to have a focus of what we want the Gambia to be. And I think by looking at tourism, Well, personally, for me, I always say that tourism is more important than agriculture. The reason being, maybe...
Why would you say that? What's the reason?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe, you know, I might be a bit biased.
No, you're not.
If you look at agriculture, I know sometimes, even if you have the rains, we'll just, within a month or two, we'll start declaring drought.
Yeah.
And people will still manage. But when it comes to tourism, if it fails, an example is the Ebola crisis that we had. The whole country shuts down. GDP goes down.
That's true.
Foreign exchange goes down. Frustration from the youths, frustration from hotel owners, frustration from even people selling fruits, on the street. Everything was dead. To the extent of that even some hotels were at 0 occupancy. And what that does is, Gambians have been asked to go home. And we don't want to see it again. And that is why I said we have to, the good thing is now we have a clear direction of where we want to take tourism. Yes, the NDP has given us a target of 250,000, but I think if all hands are on deck, if we are really serious about progress, all hands should be on deck, and let everybody understand that tourism promotion is not only about the GT board business. It's not only about the Ministry of Tourism business, it's everybody's business. And I always take example from InterFace. If Gambians that are within and without, we all have one focus. Tourism in this country will reach 500,000 within the shortest time possible.
That's true.
So every Gambian should be a marketer, not only me, not only the GT board.
Not only InterFace Gambia TV.
Everybody. Because the moment tourism grows, everybody's happy. But the moment tourism has a problem, you see, in our faces.
And I want to believe that you also create employment through the youths.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think if my move is right, both indirect and direct employment is about 75,000 jobs. And that is going to go up. And that's actually, as we speak now, we have so many ecologists coming up. So many Gambians are also building boutique hotels. Wow. So many Gambians are actually engaged in the, which is a good thing for us, because for me, the moment Gambians need to own, we need to have ownership of our own destiny. If we allow outsiders to own our destiny, Gambians are going to move. And that's why I'm impressed with the fact that Gambians are now going into owning hotels. Because what that does is we are now saying that the country belongs to us. We have to take the lead. And when we take the lead, then others would follow.
I think the reason why Gambians were not doing that in the past is because of the former government. Because then it comes to a point whereby we go into crisis with the government that was in place or in power those days. And then if you're not paying your taxes the right way, or you might own something down the line, then that's where the problem is coming from. But now that with this new government, that we've seen so many changes, and then the tourist department is booming. That's what we want as Gambians, because at least if the revenue is coming in, that's going to stay in our country. Like I said the last time, that interview that I had a couple of days ago with one of the radio station, online radios, I've met a lady that was coming from Senegal to live in the Gambia. I mean, she's a Jamaican, but she was traveling from Senegal. I met her all the way. She went back to the Gambia. A couple of days later, down the line, she phoned me. She wanted the property. As I'm speaking to you now, she owns a property in the Gambia. Yeah. But we'll take a short break and then we'll come back again. This is your presenter, Lamin, Jammeh, InterFace Gambia TV. Of course, gentleman, Mr. James Baum, and of course, I've got the director of marketing Gambia GT board. They're live with InterFace Gambia today with your presenter, Lamin, Jammeh, on the Jollof Show. We'll take a short break and then
this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Imagine a private retreat buried deep in the forest. A special place to relax, recharge, and get in touch with our culture and nature. So go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Behind the Gap, the face of Gambia worldwide, is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFace Gambia TV 2018 Gambia Tour from November 30th to 9th December with your presenter, Mr. Lamin Jammeh, The Jollof Show.
Hello, welcome to InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my brand new show called The Jollof Show.
The Gambia Shako Shakanamrek. This tour is sponsored by Gambia Chamber of Commerce Industry, Gambia Tourism Board, Senegambia Beach Hotel, Gambia Hotel Association, Mr. Yangs Dabor, Mr. Jamil Tarawale, LLB, Honorable Solicitor, Northern Garden Security Limited, and Yaye Instant Service.
Vous vivez en Europe et désirez envoyer de l'argent à vos proches en Afrique. Alors pensez à Cash Minute.
Hello, welcome back to InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my show, The Jollof Show. Today I've got two important people on this platform with me here today. I've got Mr. Adam Njai, the Director of Marketing of GT Board, and I've got Mr. James Barham, a legal advisor and a human rights activist. Mr. Njai, coming back to you, we coming to the Gambia, InterFace Gambia. InterFace Gambia coming to promote Destination Gambia. I'm sure that you know about this, you heard about it already. What are you preparing for InterFace Gambia? Because we come into the Gambia to promote Destination Gambia, and I believe that we're the only first TV coming all the way from Europe to come and promote this show, which is to promote Destination Gambia, to showcase what we got as Gambians, to showcase what we have in our country for people to go there and use our beautiful land, for tourists to come and enjoy the beautiful and the smiling coast of Africa. I can't go further without mentioning our sponsor for this tour, which is GCCI, GT Board, Senegambia Beach Hotel, Gambia Hotel Association, Yangs Dabo, Jamil Tarawale, Northern Security, and Yaye Instant Services. These are the people that the association that are helping us to sponsor this trip to the Gambia. And the main target to go to the Gambia is to promote Destination Gambia. We want to promote Destination Gambia because Gambia is our country. Gambia is where we come from. Living in the diaspora doesn't mean that we're going to forget our homeland. We don't have no place, a man has no place better than home, like
indeed,
will say.
Indeed.
Being the Director of Marketing, GT Board, Gambia Tourism Board, what exactly are you expecting from InterFace Gambia when we arrive in the Gambia?
Well, first of all, I have to say I was really touched by this initiative coming from InterFace Gambia because since I joined the board, I think the first time I'm seeing a Gambian establishment under with the TV program coming to this country. Over the years, we've had so many farm trips. What I mean by that is familiarization tour. We have so many bloggers from different countries, so many TV stations, whether it's Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, you name it. What they do is when they come to this country, when they come to Gambia, we actually coordinate the program with them. We actually review the program and choose spots that are so enticing that if anybody sees it will say, wow. And I was struck when I actually received the email from your team expressing the interest to come to this country. To your own country.
That's right.
And like you said, everybody should be an ambassador to the Gambia if you want tourism to go. And this is the thing that I always tell people, it doesn't matter where you are, a Gambian is always a Gambian.
That's
and
right.
I think whether you're in the UK or in another country or even in the Gambia, let's make sure that we develop our country. And this is a stepping stone that every Gambian should be part of. Because it shows that the Gambians are now taking the lead in everything that we want to do. And that's why we have already engaged all our stakeholders. We have already drawn a program, which we have shared with the team. And we want to make sure that when InterFace is in the Gambia, we will visit places that are so exciting, whether it's nightlife, whether it's even the likes of Makasutu, river crossing, going to the likes of tragically. You know, because, you know, when we promote Destination Gambia, it's not all about some sun and sea.
That's true.
That is beyond that.
Absolutely.
The Gambia has a very rich culture.
Indeed.
Our history, nobody can beat it.
No.
You understand? Navigable river we have, and it's still on top. You understand? There are so many things that we could showcase. Yes, of course, we do not part in terms of social media, in terms of joint marketing with our partners, but having the TV from the Gambian perspective will go a long way. And one of the things that I was very impressed is because for me as a person, before I even associate myself to any TV station or any blog, I always look at your profile. The due diligence is always done. Because we have so many proposals that comes to our desk. If we're going to say yes to everything, I don't think we'll be fair to ourselves. So every suggestion that, or any proposal we get, we look at it, look at the pros and cons of this. What is the Gambia going to benefit if we should go them, if we should say proceed? That is what we did. InterFace, when they sent the proposal, I looked at it. I look at their social media platform, how many impressions you guys have. So I was really thrilled by that. And I said, yeah, if we could entice other nationalities with their TV to come to Gambia, why not giving it to our own Gambians to come?
That's right.
And I've also reviewed how many people watch your program, and it's a lot. And the moment you go to the Gambia, take out what the Gambia is about, and you showcase it from the UK, every Gambian could pass this information. And what that does is, it means it will have a multiply effect of the awareness level that the Gambia is known. If you talk about the issue of Russia now, from 2014 to 2015, we went to Russia twice. We had a road show. We met almost 100 journalists. But they were coming in bits and pieces. And now we have realized that we have a direct flight to Russia. We want to make sure that even the Gambians from the diaspora will not only be coming every December, they'll be coming all the time. And that is why when we had a meeting with Gambia Experience this year even, the Honorable Minister and the Director General and the entire team came this year to the UK. And we had a meeting with Gambia Experience. And our point of discussion was very clear. What can you do for the Gambians in the UK?
What can you do for the Gambians in the UK?
For the Gambians in the UK. And the beauty about it is, their answer was, because what the minister wanted and us was, during the summer, we realized that the flights fares goes up. But of course, what happened is, that time most of the flight frequencies have actually gone down. So it's only one carrier that is flying. But we said, what can you do for the Gambians in the diaspora in the UK? And they said, any Gambian that is flying within this period will have a discount of about 30% of the fares.
That's very good.
And which was communicated to all of us which are in the platform. We are not stopping from there, because even if you have a meeting with them at the World Travel Market, we'll still ask those questions. Because the more Gambians we have, the better for the country, the better for tourism. Because I always tell people, despite the fact, we have so many Gambians worldwide, diasporans, they spend money though.
Oh yes, we do.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah.
And when we encourage you to come and spend, it means one, hotels will still be operational.
That's true.
Nightlife will still continue. Money will still flow. And when that happens, is the economy will boom. So for me, this is a program that I think every Gambian should embrace. We as the GT board, we as the Minister of Tourism and Culture, we as the tourism stakeholders are excited to have you guys in the Gambia, because we are convinced that you will do a good job, not only for your sake,
no,
but for the interest of the entire country.
Absolutely, for the interest of our entire country. Yes, we go into the Gambia from the 30th of November this month till the 9th of December. InterFace Gambia will be live in the Gambia with your presenter Lamin, Jammeh, myself, and the camera crew will be there to promote destination #Gambia, to showcase Gambia and sell Gambia to the whole world at large. Mr. Bao, coming back to you.
Right.
We have seen this week in the reports of the Ombudsman, social security matters, which has been condemned independent and very balanced. Does this main case affect independent anti-corruption and freedom of information expressed in the Gambia?
Yes, I've browsed through the report of the Ombudsman, particularly as it relates to the Social Security saga. And I believe some of the recommendations that they've made are pertinent and relevant at this period in time.
Just some of the recommendations?
Well, yes. Of course, everybody who reads any number of reports following investigation, interrogation, or inquiry, I don't believe will hog all of the recommendations for different reasons. Of course, you will have a pick of which ones are more relevant, but also that some would be, perhaps in your personal opinion and view, might not be relevant or perhaps as urgent. But as far as I can see, it was a balanced, report. You know, the Ombudsman herself has dealt with both the parties to that conflict that happened, and for some there were sanctions proposed or recommended. Others have been asked to, complete a restitution of monies that may have been paid which were not used in the case of the managing director, but also recommended disciplinary action against some of the staffers who were on strike. Now, that is a good thing. That we have independent commissions that look into misdemeanors or issues of conflict within the workplace. But I believe that we have an opportunity now in the process of constitution building that we are engaged in to look better at creating more oversights for the exercise of executive power. We know we have the National Assembly, of course. We also have the Ombudsman. But I believe, as far as the Ombudsman's office is concerned, the very office and the functions of that office, I believe it needs to be enhanced, and that is my personal view, and perhaps given more prominence, because as it is right now, the Ombudsman's office is a peripheral institution to the major institutions of state, and I believe it has a role to play, not only as you intimated, as regards anti-corruption, which in my view should be a separate commission, standing commission, that would be monitoring constantly the functions of government and government officials and how these institutions work. But coming back to the issue of the Ombudsman, we have lessons learned from all over the world. We have in South Africa the Public Protector's Office, which functions similarly to the Ombudsman, but which has also prosecutorial power, you know, to challenge executive officers like the president, for instance, in the case of South Africa and the Zuma scandals. And I believe that an enhanced ombudsman could serve both for, in terms of anti-corruption, but giving it the power to prosecute people who have been found wanting, perhaps is also a good thing. As far as the Freedom of Information Act is concerned, which you referred to, that is a must. In a democracy, people must have the opportunities, the channels through which to censure government, but also to take them to task in order to create a situation of accountability to the people who form that government and who entrust them with the mandate to run the office. And I believe that these are seminal processes, but also important, processes that needs to bring in, changes that would enhance and consolidate our democracy. Because you see, like I don't know, one of the top Jamaican artists of our time, and this is going back to the 80s, if you don't mind, said everybody wants to die, but wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Democracy cannot be, cannot be piecemeal. We are either ready to go the full hog in terms of putting in place the institutions that would guarantee the growth and consolidation of democracy, or we don't. Because there is no halfway house here. Now, for instance, the Freedom of Information Act is an important tool, legal tool, through which the people are able to use, to inquire into the affairs and functions of government. It gives the press a lot more leverage, because now not only can they base their inquiry on a legal instrument, but that it becomes an entitlement to the user of that instrument, if you like, to inquire into the activities, functions, and organization of government. And I think these are important steps. But of course, we also have the TRRC, you know, which is in its early formation, the CRC, which is also in its early formation. We have the continuing saga of the Jammeh Commission. We've had the Farabak Commission. There is currently right now a committee responsible for media and promoting the strategic media reform process. So there are a whole lot of inquiries that are ongoing. I think it's necessary. Why? Because we have come from a very difficult and arduous journey of 22 years. Out of the ashes of that dictatorship is where we are trying to pick our bits to form a government.
You have to understand that 3 years of being in power, or to sign 3 years with the coalition, is going to be a very difficult one for these people to settle down things.
Well, that's an argument that some make, and I suppose maybe, I don't know whether you believe in that, you know. But what I've been saying, but what I've been saying is that, look, we must separate the two. The fact of inquiring into the behavior, the functions and the operations of the dictatorship must be separated from the setting up of the foundation for a new democracy. These are two processes. You know, they are not mutually exclusive, but they are two separate processes if you want to look at it like. There is going to be a next government and a next government and a next government.
Absolutely.
The business of putting in place a firm and resilient democracy cannot be achieved in 5 years, cannot be achieved in 10 years. So why should we hustle to do it in 3 years, some argued. And I say, because that was what was agreed. Would it be completed in 5 years? I said no, because the process of democratization is a continuous process. We will do our bit, the next generation will do their bit, and then we go. It took America over 200 years to form their democracy. It took Britain forever to do the same thing. It took South Africa from 1994 to date to produce for the world to see the most enlightened constitution of the day, even though it is being trounced all around the place by officials who are supposed to be protecting it. I am saying the green shoots of democracy, as you know, are beginning to show. Okay, there is freedom of press, there is no killing, no murders, no tortures, as it were. But democracy operates in a certain way. It operates around transparency. It operates around accountability. It operates around the rule of law or rule by law. And it does so many other things that are currently absent in this government. We are saying, in order to have the full measure of the change that we have worked so hard over 22 years to achieve, I believe these little nuances of democracy need to also be there, so that people are able to be confident that their mandate is being executed in the right way. Now, you asked about sacrifices, at least earlier on.
Yes.
That some of us who had been in this game for too long had sacrificed. We did it with glee. Personally, I don't know about anybody else. Personally, I did it with glee, knowing very well that I was already on the right side of history. It was about time to now bring others along with us. And, you know, with the help of God and the determination of a band of few very dedicated people, a lot has been achieved in that 22 years, not only by the diaspora, but by people on the ground. So what I want to say in a nutshell is, even though right now we are seeing some of the green shoots of democracy, we are yet to really complete the whole process. And that process will not be completed by Mr. Barrow, neither by the next political party or the next government president in place, because democracy is a continuous process of trial and error, perhaps, but a continuing process of change and adaptation. And that is what we are going to have to witness over the coming years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baum. Are you a member of any political party, or are you still an activist?
You know, you can still be a member of a political party and an activist at the same time. You can be a doctor and a lawyer and an economist and environmentalist, but also an activist. As a political animal myself, I am not a member of any political party at this point in time. That does not preclude me getting involved in politics at a later date. Now, because I wait for the call of the national call to duty. if it would lead me to political, active political participant, political party member, so will it be only if I can contribute positively in the change. As an activist, I will always be one. Whether as a politician or as an economist, I will be an activist. An activist never really changes.
Now, because the reason I'm asking you this question is like, I just want to find out whether you are a member of any political party, which you've just mentioned clearly you're not. Are you in a place where you're starting to form a political party with anyone outside the political arena?
No, I have had too many, a lot, not to say too many, I have had a lot of overtures from several people who are either in the throes of forming a political party or are contemplating it.
So we know a lot. This is the reason why we asked you this question. As we said about yourself and other people trying to get you to involve and to have a political party.
Well, yes, I have to admit that many people have approached me to see what my thinking is around the issue. But I have not made up my mind either way, whether I will or will not. Some would listen to what I'm saying now and saying I'm talking politics, because that's what they do. They really never give you a straight answer when you ask a question. So
politicians are very good at talking. They will never give you a straight
answer. No, but no, you know, I've never really been a political kind of person like that, party political man. I've lived in Gambia. The only one time I voted was in 1987 before I left. I have worked with almost all of the political parties, as you well know. You know, from PPP to UDP to DOI to all these parties I have worked with in my endeavor as an activist. And I respect all of them. I know, for instance, that where we are heading, there will be a lot more political parties forming as we go along between now and the next election.
Including your one coming up.
Well, I don't have one, honestly, Lamin.
Not as yet. So since Mr. James Baham as a political activist?
Yes, I believe so.
But not a politician, and he doesn't have...
Not a political... well, I'm a politician in so many respects, if you look at it.
Absolutely,
of course,
absolutely.
But not in the party political framework, if you like.
I just want to get this right, Mr. Baham, because a lot has been said in the past that Mr. Baham is joining someone else, because we would not like to name people's name on our platform without their permission, just for legal reasons. But we found out information that you were trying to join someone to form a political party. This is why I wanted you to make it clear on my show, the Jollof Show, that you are not into any political party.
Not at this.
Trying to form any political party.
Not at this point. I have, like I said, I have been, you know, approached by several people, in fact, I have been used as an intermediary as well, to talk to certain individuals who may be interested to form a political party, and I have made those inquiries. But I have not formed. I don't have in my mind, as we speak right now, the intention to form a political party. But also, I am not a member, active member or otherwise, of any political party at this point in time. And that is what it is.
I think that's very clear to all the viewers of InterFae Gambia. That's Mr. Baham. He's not a member of any political party as he stands, and not joining anyone as he stands right now to form a political party. Thank you very much, Mr. Baham. Mr. Njai, the tourist season is boosting in the Gambia. I am so happy and so proud of your work. I've done quite a lot of research about yourself and in your industry. Well, going forward, how do you see the GT board, the department itself? Where do you want to see it in the next 10 years coming?
The Gambia Tourism Board?
That's right, yes.
Well, I want to see GT board to be the best institution in the Gambia in terms of innovation.
I want to see it to be the best in Africa.
Well, if you're talking in the Gambia,
in the Gambia at the moment, yes.
Yes, but if you ask me in terms of promoting Destination Gambia, of course I want Gambia should be at the top. Because from the Gambian context, I mean, the reason why I said I want GT Board to be the best institution in the Gambia in terms of innovation, in terms of how we do business. Because you see, tourism is a very sensitive industry. Slightest thing can destroy all the good work that we have done.
That's true.
That's why I always say to people, whatever amount of money we invest in promoting destinations in Gambia, other countries are doing it. So we will never slip at any point in time, because other countries like Senegal, and I'm very open to say that Senegal and other countries have been understood in Gambia for quite some time. As we speak now, Senegal has over almost $60 million grant from the World Bank. Gambia did not have anything for now. We hope that it will come up, because marketing a country is very expensive. And if you want to compete other destination, and we are all fighting in one cake, and we have to intensify our campaign in terms of overseas trip, in terms of our engagement with our stakeholders, in terms of online campaign, in terms of TV engagement, in terms of bloggers. Everything that has to do with marketing is on our shoulders at the moment. And everything that we're spending now is from the GT board coffers. And I always say to myself, yes, we have the technical know-how, but we need funds. I can tell you, with or without the funds, GT board or the Gambian tourism players are well respected all the time in any platform in Africa. And trust me, in my conviction is telling me in the next 2 years or so, you'll see a different Gambia in terms of tourism approaches. In terms of, because you see, we have seen the country where it was all about mass tourism. Those days are gone. If you want tourism to trickle down to the poor, you have to also blend different tourists that are coming to this country, whether it's leisure, whether it's the mice market, whether it's the holiday makers, the honeymooners rather,
yeah.
Whether it's those that are only interested in culture, whether those that are only interested in ecotourism. For me, despite the fact the NDP has given us 250,000, I believe that we can surpass it within very soon, even before the target that was given for 2021. Because wherever any country is in terms of tourism, whether it's Cape Verde or whatever, we have the potential in the Gambia to be the best place that anybody could come to. And even before I came, I had an interview with GRTs, and I made it very clear, it's like all hands must be on deck.
That's true.
You know, all hands must be on deck. We have to work. There is no time to waste. After being, I'm not a politician, by the way.
That's fine. I'm not asking you any political questions.
Yes. After being in a very turbulent environment for the longest, there's an opportunity that everybody has to embrace. We have to embrace everything because peace is here. The environment is conducive. That's why investors are coming in. Investors are pouring into this Mayan coast, which has not happened before. So the political environment has given us endless opportunities. So we have to grab it now.
So those are open for investors, being Gambians,
non-Gambians.
Right.
It's open, but I want all Gambians to take the lead. The country belongs to us.
That's true.
We shouldn't allow anybody to come and take the lead. We have intelligent people.
Oh yes,
Gambians are well talented, like Mr. Baham
clearly said.
If you go to the international organization, I don't think any country has built Gambians at the top level. Mm. So we got the knowledge. We don't have the time to waste. People need to understand one thing, whether it's tourism or any development for any country. If we step back and have that lackadaisical attitude, the country will never move.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So we need to be seen doing what we're supposed to do. And I always tell people, if you're paid to do a job, do it to the max. You see, as a leader, you should be an example to everybody. If I'm saying that I want to promote tourism of this country worldwide, and I'm seeing always at the back, it's better if I'm honest to myself to tell them my resignation.
That's true.
For me, I always tell people that anytime I believe that I add value to my country or to the GT board, I'll just tell them my resignation. Because my passion is to see Gambia at another level. Because even the influx of tourists we see now, for me, yes, it's very impressive. There's more to come. And we can make it happen.
That's true.
We can make it happen. And the only way we can make it happen, let's work. I don't have any problem for somebody to come and tell me, why can you do this way? Nobody's perfect. And I always tell people, feel free. That's why even in my office, I hardly have an appointment with people. GT Board is a public office. It's an office every Gambian has the right to come and see us. If we don't allow Gambians to come and see us, that's no point to have a public office. And that is my stand. And my stand states that any, whether it's a politician or any worker in the Gambia should have an open door policy. People should be allowed to do their work without fear or favor. And that's the only way that this new Gambia can move on. And like I said, for me, tourism is everything. If we make it happen, everybody's happy. But if we sit back, the whole country will suffer.
I will totally agree with you, personally, basically on the fact that, we're here to promote tourism and, of course, to talk to Mr. Baham about the government in the Gambia and how so many laws have changed. But you've endeavored your time traveling all these long hours from the Gambia, arrive in the UK, less than 24 hours you're in the studio having the interview with us. We really appreciate and value your time for being with us here. But someone like me, I would say that for tourist attraction, for instance, a country like the UK, places that they go for tourism, you will see that there's lots of investment that the government has invested in those places. Now, if we were to say in my country that I am thinking of going with InterFae Gambia to do promotion destination Gambia, places that the tourists would like to see, what investment are you people doing in these places so that when they go back, they can come back again? The lights of Kajikali, Fort Blett, Janjambur, the slave house, the craft market. How is your department or the government in general trying to build these places so the tourists can have something that when they go back, they want to come back again and have a look at these places?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think if you look at our statistics, I think 45 to 50% of our tourists are repeaters. And what that tells you is that they've seen something that they like in year out. That is why we have a department called Product Development Department. The mandate of the Product Development Department is to actually augment the product suite that we have for this country. But it also it has some cost implication here. And that's why I earlier said that we cannot do it alone, the Gambia Tourism Board, not the government. Because a mighty country like Senegal, they can have donor funding of $60 million for marketing and product development, and we don't have it at the moment. But we are even stopping that, because everything that we're doing right now, and of course, by extension with the National Center for Arts and Culture, they are the one responsible for the heritage sites here and there. But I can tell you, we are even rejuvenating, even if you go to Continental Island now, we have revamped the place. And we are also working with NCAC and our donor partners to even see how best we could save the island. Because if we don't save the island, the generation coming after us might not see the Continental Island, and that will be a disaster for everybody. But I can tell you right now, we do everything possible to make sure that the product should, because it's one thing to market a country, but the experience also is important. And the experience, you can only have experience by the product.
That's true.
Yeah? And yes, we have some dilapidated products, but we're using our resources to actually do our best. You have just given an example of Kachikali. We have engaged Kachikali for the longest. It's also important to realize that Kachikali is not owned by the GT board or by the government, it's owned by family.
It's a family owned.
But we always engage them to see how best we could work together to make sure the place is clean, the place is actually augmented to the level that we want. But at the same time, we also have a quality department that licenses the tourism product. And their mandate is any establishment or any product that is not up to the standard, we have the mandate to close it down.
Why?
Because what we don't want is a bad experience can spoil $10 million of marketing that you have done in a country. And that is why we are very serious about our product shoot. And I'm sure you'll be impressed when you go to the Gambia. You'll be surprised that even if you go to the likes of Kunta Kinte Island, you'd see even we have an information center being built. Because the Gambia Tourism Board was working with Cartel. Cartel is a French company that have done a lot of things in terms of restoring heritage sites.
That's right.
But of course, even the strategy that we have for Jufure, we haven't exhausted everything yet. But at least if you go, you'll see a phase that has been completed. There is still more, because what we want to do now, even if I give an example for Kunta Kinte Island, we don't just want tourists to go to Kunta Kinte Island and see where Kunta Kinte was born and just go back. We want to do something within the island that will entice people to spend more time, because the moment you have a product where tourists spend more time, they'll be compelled to buy.
To buy stuff.
They'll be compelled to spend. And when that happens, it means the community will also benefit. But also, it's also important that for viewers to know that the GT Board and the Ministry of Tourism and Culture is working into building, of course with our partners, to build community-based tourism in every region in this country.
Good.
Because as we speak now, we have already built one community-based tourism at Ndemban. And I think if you look at the program, we have put you to visit Ndemban. What that does is, when we did a strategy or a review, when we went to the ITB a couple of years back, we did a survey. And we realized that the Germans actually want that experience in terms of family experience, where they will come to a family, for example, in a hut, and spend with the family, drink with them, cook with them, that kind of experience. And that's what we established at Ndemban. We're going to replicate a similar thing in all the 5 regions in this country. What that does is that every region will have an advantage in terms of tourists going to that places. Because, we hate to see tourists visiting only the Senegambia Street. That's not what we want. They should come, get out of their hotel, go to the hinterland, and have a feel of the culture. Because when we promote the Gambia, we don't only promote the Gambia on one section. No, we promote the Gambia in totality.
That's right.
And that actually encompasses everything: the hospitality, the rich culture we have, the river, you name it. So that's why when we promote the country of all our unique selling proposition, we want the tourists also to come and experience that. Because if we promote the country and say this and this and this is there, and the tourists will come and they don't see that, they go to another country. So that's why we are working very closely with our tourism stakeholders, that yes, we take the lead in terms of promoting destinations in Gambia, but GT Board cannot be building products like that we will be charging to. No. That's why we say stakeholders take the lead in this, but we will also we always work very closely with our stakeholders. But I can tell you, the agenda, the number one agenda now, even if we have support from the World Bank, we will do more engagement on product development.
So who are the stakeholders that the GT Board is working with?
One of course is the overseas tour operators. We also have our grantor operators. They also have an association called the TTAG and /GTOA. We also have the Gambia Hotel Association. We also have even ASET. We also even have the Gambia Birding Association. Even the craft market that you mentioned, GT Board every year before the season starts, all craft markets are renovated on time. We also make sure even the fruit sellers, we make sure that everything before the season starts, the fruit sets that have been given to Gambians only are renovated from our coffers, given to Gambians. That is our contribution to the informal sector.
That's right.
That's what we do.
Thank you very much. We'll take a short break, and please stay tuned. There's still some hard talks coming through towards Mr. James Bahu, and of course some questions coming to Ms. Njai. Please stay tuned. I'm your presenter, Lamin Jammeh, on InterFae Gambia on my show, The Jollof Show. Thank you.
A date for your diary. Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition of top class only. This event is sponsored by Gam Designers UK.
If it is luxurious surroundings and a warm welcome you're looking for, this is the perfect place. On the golden sands by the mighty ocean, our fabulous hotels offer everything modern travellers would expect. High quality, attention to detail, personal service, and more. Imagine a private retreat buried deep in the forest. A special place to relax, recharge, and get in touch with our culture and nature. So go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Mind the Gap. The face of Gambia worldwide is coming to promote Destination Gambia with a difference to the world through InterFae's Gambia TV 2018 Gambia Tour from November 30th to 9th December with your presenter, Mr. Lamin Jammeh, The Jollof Show.
Hello, welcome to InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my brand new show called The Jollof Show.
The Gambia Shako Shakanambrek. This tour is sponsored by Gambia Chamber of Commerce Industry, Gambia Tourism Board, Senegambia Beach Hotel, Gambia Hotel Association, Mr. Yangs Dabor, Mr. Jamil Tarawale, LLB, Honorable Solicitor, Northern Garden Security Limited, and Yaye Instant Service.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate, the more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Send money through Yaye Instant Service. For more details, contact us today on 0208 519 0007 or visit us online on www.yaye.co.uk or follow our social media links. Yaye Instant Services, always doing things better.
Right. Okay. Hello, welcome back to Interface Gambia with your presenter Lamin Jammeh with my brand new show called The Jollof Show. The whole show today has been sponsored by Interface Gambia, going to the Gambia with our sponsors GCCI, GT Boards, and the Gambia Beach Hotel, the Gambia Hotel Association, Yangs Dabo, Jamil Tarawale, Northern Garden Security, and Yaye Instant Money Services. I've got these two gentlemen here with me, the Director of Marketing of Gambia Tourist Board. And I've got Mr. James Baum, who's been cornering me since the interview started. Mr. Baum, coming back to you, Mr. Baum. Mr. Baum, where do you see the Gambia going in terms of democracy in the next coming years?
I have an ardent hope.
Being in mind, I don't believe in the word democracy is very delusional when it comes to me. Like
yes, I know a lot of people like you.
Thank you. So where do you think we're going now?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of hope that we will, in the coming years, and I think the seminal point is 2021, as we are going the full 5-year hug, it would appear, would then give us the ability or the framework really to make a thorough assessment of how far we have come from 2016. I anticipate that the new constitution that will be birthed, maybe in the next year, maybe two, will also give us a good pointer as to how far we've come in our desire to build a democratic dispensation. These are two important and seminal, things that are happening that we will be able to use really to gauge how far we've come. Democracy, like I said, is an ongoing process of consolidation. We make little gains here and there, as we currently are. Issues around accountability, around transparency. And the other elements of a truly democratic system are in the making. And this will be amplified, I suspect, when we have the new constitution. Democracy also, we talked about it, the necessity to be accountable in a democracy. The TRRC is also another opportunity for us to see how far we have come in terms of healing the nation and reconciling the nation, which I believe is the ultimate aim of the TRRC. How best to prevent what happened over the last 22 years to recall, and how well we are able to satisfy the need for closure for so many of the families that have become directly or indirectly victims of the last government. I think also there is, in my observation, there is a yearning amongst the Gambian people to have a system that is not only representative, but for which they can also take full ownership in terms of the drive to really bring democracy to Gambia. So there are different disparate elements that need to really come into a critical mass, if you like, by which we will be able really to assess how far we've come. In 5 years, I expect to see a firm foundation having been built over this transitional period. And from there, any government that comes, these are a strong and resilient foundation, one that can withstand abuse, despise corruption, but also give people their entitlements, sen warluwai, and also prevent the recurrence of dictatorship. If these elements are met, I'll be happy, because from then, anybody can be, any government that comes into place will be able to build on this, because it would then be in a position where the Gambian people are able to assess for themselves what they require, what they need, and what they are entitled, they are mandating their government to do for them. I'll give you an example. There currently, I am part of two processes, two programs and projects that are being launched in Gambia. One is the MSDG project, which most people must have heard about, headed by Professor Fall, that is looking to transform Gambia's remittances into alternative national development funding. This is important because we know we have direct, inward direct investment and all that, but how Gambian people living in the diaspora, the remittances that they send to the Gambia can be transformed into different forms of development funding. Now, as you well know, the Gambian diaspora contributed 22% to GDP last year alone, 2016-17. $219 million was, and this is an underestimate. Out of 140,000 Gambians living in the diaspora, 7% of the national population are able to contribute 22% to GDP. That's massive. That's a lot. And that's I said it's an underestimate because I know that these are only the monies, the remittances that are going through regulated corridors. That's true. We are not looking at the vast amount of remittances that are going through unregulated corridors. So if you ask me, personally, I believe that the contribution of the diaspora to GDP in terms of remittances is anything around the 30 to 35% GDP, amounting to maybe anything up to $800 million, if you look at it that way, because the vast amount of money that people transfer go through on these unregulated corridors, and so government cannot really be able to quantify in precise numbers how much in total is going to the Gambia from the diaspora remittances. Now, it is true that project, the MSDG project, that is leveraging the Gambian diaspora, their expertise, their financing, their innovation, their skill transfer, leveraging it to take it back to Gambia in order to help the process of change. And we look on issues around migration, look at issues around information technology, education, health, infrastructure, and all these areas have been dealt with within the context of the MSDG project. We had the launching of this great project last year, or earlier this year in January 13th at the Kairaba, which the president opened. Significantly though, it was at that meeting that he declared the Gambian diaspora as the 8th region of the Gambia. Of course, this is a socio-political construct, and therefore it has no real legal backing and authority. But the AU, for instance, had also declared it's the African diaspora as the 6th region of the world, of Africa, really. So it is in that that model that we are following, Senegal as well. There is political implications for that kind of declaration.
How?
Significantly, the right of the diaspora to vote in national elections. And this is important. We've been calling for this since 2001. We have actually engaged international organizations that are now currently supporting the current CRC, but also the TRRC, in the form of IDEA, the Institute of Democracy and Electoral Support in Sweden, who are now engaged with the processes of transition in Gambia. But they had already in 2001 asked us to ask the Gambia government, how do you want us to help you? Many people are a bit skeptical about the possibility of whether or not extending the franchise to the Gambian diaspora is feasible. I say yes. We don't have to look far. We just have to turn to the Senegalese model, and it tells us how to do this. And right now, the MSDG project, through Professor Fall's interaction with the Senegalese IEC, the equivalent, are working on this. And he's had several meetings with them. He's led some of their delegations to international conferences around the world as well. But there is a lot that the diaspora can bring to bear in the development processes. Now, it is for that reason that in the NDP, of the 7 critical enablers, 1 relates to what the diaspora can bring to Gambia and how we are able to tap into that massive resource that the diaspora presents to Gambia, you know, in order to use that expertise, that manpower, that innovative tendencies, and, you know, to really make serious change happen in Gambia. And I think it's possible. One thing I recall was just in the process of change back in December of 2016, I was talking to a friend who I met at an earlier stage, a member of the EU Action Group, and he said to me in our conversation, one thing you guys don't have to worry about is expats. Gambians, there is hardly any international organization in the world that does not have a Gambian imprint or intervention. So we do not need to send you experts for technical assistance and stuff like that. You have the manpower. So call upon it and tell us how much, and then we are able to contribute in the cost of bringing these people over to help you. That has not yet materialized. And I think it is important that in the CRC issues document that was also released recently, that these issues are burning issues within that, in the framework of that issues document. And so I believe that to this point, the Gambia has not made full use of its diaspora, but I suspect that will change. Because it is becoming more and more apparent that the diaspora wants to be part of the change agenda, but also that we are able to contribute massively. Recently, the Diaspora Health Initiative, which has been doing some sterling work over the period, has just renovated the children's wing, the pediatric wing of the Gambia, the Edward Francis Small Hospital, to a high notch. You know, brilliantly done, aircon, all this stuff, and then pile loads of medication for the children. These are some of the things that the diaspora can do. We are also in the throes of forming an advocacy organization called Charter 70. Charter 70, you must have known about, you know about Charter C70, and it's back in Gambia, registered as a civil society organization. And we aim to do a couple of things. Now, we talk about participatory democracy, and I think this is important. Why? Because the reason why dictatorships thrive in countries such as Gambia, one of the reasons has to do with the lack of active participation by the ordinary civil society members in the national decision-making process. We want to change those dynamics. How do you do it? There are several different ways of doing it. But as far as we're concerned, those of us who are activists in the process here of the struggle have come together and say, okay, we need to put on the ground an organization that can really be part of the development of democracy in our country, getting people more engaged in the process of decision making, more active in the political sphere. But also we need to create an organization that has the competence and the wherewithal, the capacity really to hold government accountable at certain stages in our development, in our processes of democratization. And I think that where MSDG is bringing in material support to help the government, not only in terms of the remittances and how to convert that into national development funding, but also how to bring the overall, you know, expertise of the Gambian diaspora to bring it to bear on the change process. I believe diasporans have a great part to play. You know, issues about nationality and citizenship and residency, dual nationality are issues that are kind of temporary barriers, I believe. And that's why the issues document is clear about these issues, about who is a Gambian, who is a citizen, how long does one have to be, you know, resident to be a citizen, but also dual nationality and how it affects the desire of some Gambian diasporans to participate fully in the process. For instance, as you know, holding dual nationality means you're not able to be a cabinet member. So if Lamin wanted to be cabinet member for environment, the fact that you may hold dual nationality is a bar to your, you know, to your participation in that process. But even at the grassroots level, people who went out there on the 1st of December 2016 to vote must have avenues and leeways and platforms from which they can participate meaningfully in the democratization process. And you know, Gambian diasporans over the 22 years have been shouting against the government about the problems. Now it's time really to find solutions to those problems. And our activism has exposed us to certain, you know, activities and certain initiatives which we believe can have some tangible benefits to the Gambians, both economically, systems-wise, but also in terms of meeting our aspirations as Democrats.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baham. Coming back to you, Mr. Njai, what measures of security is in place when it comes to these tourists coming into the Gambia? But not only the tourists coming into the Gambia, what measures of security also in place for our own citizens? The reason I'm saying our own citizens, because you talked about the nightlife. We're coming into the Gambia, surely we'll be going to Senegambia to take the nightlife. But I've seen lots of teenage underage drinking, and the rest I don't want to mention it on TV, but exactly you might know what I'm trying to say. How do we try to control this within the security system, just to boost the tourist industry?
Well, I think one of the key unique selling proposition of this country is the security that we have compared to many African countries, and the safety of not only the Gambians but even people visiting the country is our number one agenda. And when I say that, is we're working closely with the Minister of Interior, very closely. That is why if you go to tourism development area, you see tourism security unit, we call them the TSU. They're actually under the Ministry of Interior. In terms of, you know, we're all cognizant of the fact that tourism, whether we like it or not, anywhere in the world, of course, have some negativity that we have to,
yes,
you know, we have to accept. But also, I've also made it very clear in the Gambia, and even if I travel overseas, I think Gambians are known to be well disciplined. This is where parents have to also help us, because we have seen instances where we will confront young girls with some white men who can be their granddads. Surprisingly, you will call the parents and they will tell you, these are sponsors of my kids. Where do you go from there? And that is why now we are saying that we have actually established a 24-hour tribunal for anybody, any tourist who is found wanting whilst you are in this country. You'll be apprehended, taken to court within 24 hours. If you're found guilty, you will pay the price. You understand?
Yes.
So, we're still trying to minimize the vices of tourism, just like any other country in the world. And that's why our tourism security units are on high alert. Even now, we've put certain things in place that even if you suspect, kids roaming around within the TDA, the tourism security unit, and of course in collaboration with our GT board staff, because we have staff under the quality department that works 24 hours. We can always talk to the kids and find out, because that's the only thing you can do also, because that's why here I said the parents also need to help us, because I don't understand being a responsible parent allowing my child of 5 years or 10 going out with somebody who is about 50 or 80 years old, holding your hands, and where are the parents? And GT board can't just come and see an old person holding a child and just start creating, because also we have to be cautious. When tourists come to the Gambia, we want them to feel they're leaving home, coming home again. But nonetheless, we are very cognizant with the fact that we don't compromise with security.
Absolutely.
That is why the Ministry of Interior is working so closely with us that even now, we're even thinking of even having trainings with the tourism security. The reason being, security men always have their own mentality. And the tourism industry is a hospitality industry. It's one thing to be a security person, but it's another thing also to know how to approach people. Because we have seen instances where a soldier can just come and tell a tourist some kind of word that would be very irritating, or even a Gambian could be asked certain nasty questions which are not called for. And what we do now is we're actually training our tourism security on customer service, because they have to be customer service oriented, because it's one thing to actually put on a uniform, but it's another thing also to have an impact on the people that they are trying to secure. Yes, if you go to the Gambia area, we don't want to have a situation where we restrict Gambians also from enjoying what's theirs, because also we have to be cautious. The moment you start, because I remember last year we also have a lot of complaints where people say, oh, why is it that when I come to the TDA, I'm stopped by police and they ask me where's my ID card? And we're trying to say that sometimes if we don't do random checks and ask for ID cards, how many people from other West African countries are coming to the Gambia without even papers? And they'll be roaming about within the TDA area trying to see what they can do that is not in line with our interest. So it's always very difficult to actually give everything that you can, as far as Gambia is concerned.
Well, Mrs. Jai, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Because this, you've clearly mentioned it, like kids under the age of 10, 13.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the Gambia 3 months ago. I hardly go to Senegambia when I'm in the Gambia. If I'm there, I'm just there to buy food and I'm off back again. But I've seen numerous occasions whereby you've seen teenage girls, I'm telling you, teenage girls going into nightclubs with elders who are capable of being their grandfathers or their parents. So this is a big concern for me personally as a presenter, and of course most people will share with me, this is a concern for Gambians. We don't have problem, as much as we want to sell destination Gambia, we love people to come to our country and spend, like I said, each and every Gambian benefited either directly or indirectly, like you clearly mentioned. But these kids, they should be ID going into the nightclubs. There should be corrections. I don't believe the fact that having military or police around in the Gambia, because then you want to make it a very, like you said, a very friendly environment for tourists coming into that place. But the moment you see that, it becomes to be a concern for Gambians.
Yeah, but I think, Lamin, this is where we said, when we see underage girls, we stopped and asked their ID. If they're also there, they ask to go. But this is where we're also doing some awareness level, even back home, whether it's at GRTS, whether it's at the Unique FM or West Coast Radio, you know, because we have 3 partner institutions that we work with. But trust me, sometimes we'll take 3 hours just to educate the people that yes, tourism is here, but we also need to be seen being responsible people. For me, sometimes I don't get it. I don't get it, because a responsible parent cannot allow your child to be out at 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, where is that parent? Is it all because of, it's a job? That shouldn't be the case. You see, GT Port cannot be seen as a police. I think also, in all fairness, every Gambian should be responsible also. Of course, we will do our part. If you see any teenager or any underage girl, we will apprehend the person. That's why, because of our concern, that's why we have institutionalized a 24-hour tribunal. Brilliant. Because what we have noticed is some tourists were committing crimes. By the time you know it, they're out of the country. Now, if you are caught, you're going to, even if it is 2 o'clock in the morning, we have a magistrate that is on standby. If you are caught at 2 o'clock, but rest assured you're going to court at 2:30 or 3. Really? So before you leave, you will know your fate. If you're guilty, you'll pay the prices.
Good. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Njai. That brings us to the end of this program with InterFace Gambia. I'm your presenter, Lamin Jammeh, with this show called The Jollof Show. We come into the Gambia. I can't stop talking about this, Mr. Njai. I'm sorry. I know it's your department. Well, but yes, we are InterFace Gambia. We come into Gambia to promote Destination Gambia 2018 from the 30th of this month, October to November, rather, excuse me, till the 9th of December. We will be in the Gambia to promote Destination Gambia, Gambia Chico, Chicken and Break. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Baum, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you very much, Lamin. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
It's been a very long time, but
absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the trouble. I know you traveled all the way from the Gambia today. No, you look very tired, but hopefully the CEO will look after you immediately after the program.
Well, I hope so.
Thanks. Merci beaucoup. Franchement.
Thank you so much.
Tu parles pas français?
Un peu.
Un peu, voilà. Il n'y a pas de beaucoup de Gambiens qui parlent français, mais bon, ça c'est la vérité.
Thank you.
Bon, merci, franchement, merci.
Merci.
Monsieur Baron, franchement, merci.
Mon plaisir, monsieur.
Merci.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
All right.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more